Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely Humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and this is episode 126 on food for healing, connection, and nourishment with Janet Elsbach. Janet and I talk a lot about grief in this episode. She talks about the loss of her sister and mother. We talk about receiving help during the grieving process. And as I mentioned, food for healing and nourishment. Janet has written a beautiful, part memoir, part recipe book called Extra Helping, Recipes for Caring, Connecting, and Building Community, one dish at a time. You know, you guys, we may be socially distancing and staying home. I hope you are. It is the time of COVID-19, and I think that's the empathetic thing to do, but either way, we can still heal each other and connect with our families, the people that we are with at home through food, because food is something we all can share. We all eat food, unless you're a robot and you just have, you need to oil your joints or something, but I don't know if robots can figure out podcasts. You're listening to this. You're a human who is nourished by food. And Janet has given us this wonderful gift in writing this book called Extra Helping. And very excited to announce that I'm doing a little book giveaway. I'm giving away 3 copies. Three copies of Janet's beautiful book, Extra Helping. And where you can enter that little giveaway is over on Instagram at YouMeEmpathy. So check out this episode's post, and you'll see how to enter one of 3 copies of Janet's amazing book. It's chock full of amazing recipes and beautiful illustrations. I highly recommend it. It's great. And like I said, I'm giving away 3 copies. Before we get to the episode, though, I want to remind you to please leave reviews in Apple Podcasts. It really does help out the show. It's a free way to support the show. You Me Empathy is no longer on Patreon, so if you can support it that way, that would be wonderful. I went to my little phone to the podcast app just before recording this and saw that there were no new reviews. So come on, people. Do it. I'm going to shame you into supporting this show. Not really. If you don't want to do it, that's okay. But if you feel it in your heart to leave a review in Apple Podcasts, I would very much appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much. The other thing I'm talking ad nauseum about is Feely Human Collective. Again, you can go over to feelyhuman.co and you can sign up for the newsletter in advance of Feely Human launching to the public next month. In about a month. There's no specific date yet, although I'm realizing that I probably need to have a specific date, but there's no specific date as of this moment for the launch date of Feely Human, but it's coming soon. I've been working very hard every day to get it out with the help of my trusty intern, Tristan, and various other folks, Luke and Becky and Jessica, of course, just supporting me and encouraging me during this time. It's been very helpful. And so it's coming soon. But make sure to sign up for that newsletter. You'll be the first to hear about its launch in May. It's, again, feelyhuman.co. Go there and make sure to follow Feely Human on all the socials at Feely Human. The other thing is You Me Empathy has a group. It's actually called Feely Humans Unite. It was once the You Me Empathy podcast community. Now it's called Feely Humans Unite. It's a private group for Feely Humans. Private group for Feely Humans. That's what it is on Facebook. If you want to, I'm announcing it because if you want to be in it, you should go be in it. Search for Feely Humans Unite. In addition to that, I'm looking for a few moderators of that Facebook group. So if you have an hour to a week to, do some posts and engage, please let me know. Just DM me on Instagram at YouMeEmpathy or at FeelyHuman. I very much appreciate it. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get into episode 126. Hold on. Sorry. Another interruption. I'm sorry. I'm the worst, but I love you. And you love me. Here's the thing. Again, I just have to say it. We are still, as I mentioned before, going through this time of coronavirus, and it's maybe a little anxious, maybe a little stressful. I was thinking earlier that, it's been about a month, right? Since we've been sort of staying at home, and it's weird and it's uncomfortable at times, but I do hope that, I know for me, initially there was discomfort and there still is, but it's getting better, and I hope it's getting better for you. My good friend, I say good friend, but she's a friend. I consider her a friend. My friend Jen Pasteloff is doing an amazing sort of Dork It Out dance challenge. If you want to search for that hashtag, you can see one of my dorky dances. She's doing that to raise some money for people who don't have food right now. And she has a GoFundMe that is in the link in the You Me Empathy Instagram bio. If you want to donate to that, that'd be amazing. If you have some money, that'd be awesome. No fret if not. But do the Dork It Out dance challenge. It's fun. But anyways, I hope you're doing okay, and I'm sending hugs and love, and just know that you're not alone. And every Sunday during it, at 2 p.m. Pacific time, we're doing a little virtual chat, just emotional check-in. So if you want to go to that, it's bit.ly/feelyhuman. That's the link. Every Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Check it out. And then lastly, on Wednesday of this week, a couple days from now, I'm doing a little empathy presentation over on the Mighty on Instagram, I believe. So if you're following the Mighty, go check them out. And I hope to see you there. It's at 11 a.m. Pacific time. It'll be about an hour. Hope to see you there. On the Instagram, the Mighty. I think they're at the Mighty site on Instagram. Any hoozles, let's get to the episode. Finally, I've been droning on for hours. Let's get to this beautiful episode with my dear friend Janet Elsbach on food for healing and nourishment and connecting and just food. Food is good. I love food. You love food. We all love food, and Janet is amazing. Okay, episode 126. This is it. Enjoy.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You Me Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You Me Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our mental health, our neuroses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You Me Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm a happy raisin in a slice of toasted cinnamon swirl bread with writer, doggo lover, and author of Extra Helping, Janet Rich Elsbach. Hello, Janet.
Hi, Noan.
How are you?
I'm okay. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Western Massachusetts, so that's always a good mood lifter.
Yeah. So one time a doctor told me I need more sun to help with my mood and my depression. Is sun a thing that helps with your mental health?
Sun, definitely, and getting outside, all definitely helpful.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'm so happy to have you. It's we were talking before we got started recording that it's been a long time in the works.
Yeah, it took us a few tries to coordinate schedules, but everything lined up beautifully today, including 3 dogs that are sitting here with me who've all been instructed to be very, very quiet.
Excellent. And I have my Scooby here, and his paws are washed of the poop that he mashed them in this morning. So we're good. We're all good. We're all set to record. Thank you so much for being here. I'm happy that we're doing this. I think your book, Extra Helping, is lovely and really beautiful, and I love the angle, and we'll get into that in a bit later. But before we do that, we always start the show with an emotional check-in. So how has your week been? How are you feeling?
Well, I went to visit my dad in Florida, so I got some sunshine of the warm variety, which is not really available where I live right now, which was nice. It's just about exactly a year since we lost my mom, so I'm very conscious of the cycles and sort of bumblebee flight of living with that kind of loss, and it's been kind of a low week with that. You know, when I go to a new space that she used to be in, I'm always looking for her. So yeah, got ups and downs with that, but I got to go into the sunshine with 2 of my kids, which is always really nice.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's hard. What part of Florida did you visit?
Miami.
Okay.
Take me to Miami. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't spent much time in Florida, but my recollection, I think the last time I was there was probably in the 90s, and we went to Orlando for Disney World, and that was a delight.
I was there when I was 10 years old, which was back when dinosaurs roamed the earth in Orlando. Miami has some wonderful features. It is not a great place to be if you're really conscious of like what humans are doing to the earth. It's pretty densely developed, so it can be kind of depressing just in that very physical way.
Yeah.
As a northerner, I can't look askance at getting a little sunshine.
Sure.
This time of year. So.
Totally. And what is how cold is it in Western Mass right now?
It was startlingly it was in the teens when we got off the plane, which is always a real shock to the system when you've been in flip-flops, but it's a very human friendly kind of 30s, I think, today. And like I said, the sun is shining, the sky is bright blue, so there's no green in the landscape really at the moment, but it is sunny and clear, which is always nice.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks for sharing that.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's been a pretty exhausting week for me in my day job and sort of launching this new thing that's by the time this is out should be out, and that's exciting. And but there was a thing yesterday I wanted to mention. So my friends Gwen and Norm threw this little party last night. And kids were welcome and stuff. And it was, but the idea around the party was each person has to bring a story or something they made or a creation of some kind that sort of spoke to the theme of beginnings. Mm-hmm. And so people came and read, haikus or, read a story that they wrote, or some kids created little bird houses. And it was really, I wasn't really looking forward to it necessarily because I don't know, it's been just an exhausting week. And so I was feeling like I just wanted to stay at home. But, serendipitously, it was at Norm's house and they live just across the street. So we could just walk there. And Jessica, my wife, and I, the day before, had a moment where we just came up with a silly idea of some performative dance to the movie Rad. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Rad.
I didn't.
It's a 1986, like very cheesy BMX sort of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it on VHS, as a nerd, as the nerd I am. And so we put that, we played like this. There's a sequence in the movie, and for the listeners listening who's seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But it's like the scene where they're essentially dancing with bicycles, and they call it bicycle boogie.
Did you bring bicycles to Norm's house?
We did not, but we put it on my little VHS player, TV. We played that scene, and then Jessica and I did like a performative dance together, and it was very silly, and we were giggling throughout, and it was just it was a delight. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
Did anyone bring anything edible?
Yes, actually, a few people. One person is writing a book. You'll actually appreciate this. One person is writing a book on it's a fiction book, I think she explained, and one of the characters is a baker. And so she's like, I really need to like get into baking to like maybe get inside the head of the character. So she baked a strawberry loaf or something, and then another person baked chocolate croissants with his son. So yeah, there was all sorts of different creations. It was a delight.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I think and I don't know if I'm an introvert myself, so I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but like my instinct initially always is like, I'll stay home. But I'm
laughing because I get teased about that all the time.
Right? I mean, but when I do go, and it's not always the case, but like when I do go, I'm just like, okay, I'm really glad I went because I really got a lot out of that. I was able to connect, and as much as like I, as an introvert, need time to myself, I also need to connect. Do you relate to that?
Yeah. I totally relate to that. I just have to be very judicious about what, like, I got to catch myself right at the sweet spot where like need the connection and willing to kind of open up and go out. So I really connect to what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a party animal.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the listeners will see, I'll probably post a video of Jessica and I dancing later today, and you'll see how silly that was. All right, let's get into your story, Janet. Let me ask you this: where would you like to start? I know, I want to talk about the book, Extra Helping, but and sort of the nourishing and community of like food and all of that. But like, I also want to talk about your sort of mental health journey as well. Do you want to, maybe mention a seminal moment or two in your mental health journey you want to share?
Oh, I feel like I'm just sort of in a waiting area of some lounge on that journey. I feel like certainly for the last 10 years, I would say, grief has just been a really powerful teacher on that journey. It's been, my family's gone through some pretty profound losses, and so I'm really conscious of the ways that can both affect your sort of baseline general, whatever that is, mental health, and open up really kind of beautiful pathways to learn more about what we were just talking about connecting to other people and the merits of, getting outside, and just really root understanding of what helps you feel safe and grounded in the world.
Yeah. And can you tell me about what happened? So like, I know that you've written about it, your older sister dying.
Yeah, so
can you talk about that experience a bit?
Sure. I'm one of three sisters, and in 2013, my oldest sister died after about 2 years journey with cancer. And that was just a really profound education in so many ways. And we had lost some close friends before that, whose losses had also been pretty informative, a real practicum in how those things go. But and then in the aftermath of that, my dad has Parkinson's, and he had some pretty serious health crises in the immediate aftermath of my sister dying, and then again, my mom died a year ago. So
Yeah.
Striking pretty close to home, pretty seminal losses.
Right.
And then my dad's ongoing struggle with his health, and it's been a good amount to process.
Yeah, that is so much, and I'm really deeply sorry for all that loss.
Thank you.
So when we talk about loss, and I've spoken to a few different folks on this podcast, Rebecca Sofer of Modern Loss being one of them, Rachel Reich of That Good Grief being another. The thing about I always hear, and I wonder if this is the same for you, Janet, is there's no real sort of preparation, right? Like there's no real, because it's so uniquely yours to hold, right? So like when we experience loss, there's truly, and maybe this, I wonder if this is the case for you, there's truly no prep work you can do, for lack of a better term,
No, in retrospect, I think, sometimes I feel like I'm about 1,000 years old, or sitting on my mushroom here giving out counsel. But in retrospect, I think I would tell some younger version of myself that really honing the ability to connect to other people, to figure out the ways that can feel nourishing and not, challenging, and finding out what your comfort languages are and what you need to feel strong. Those are really the only ways to prepare. And I had the experience when my sister was ill. Somebody said to me, "Oh, I've never known anyone who died." And I remember thinking at the time, like, "Whew, well, odds are pretty good you're not going to be able to wear that bumper sticker for the rest of your journey here."
Right, that streak ain't lasting.
Yeah. So I think I don't love the phrase, but I'm very taken with the phrase, like anticipatory grief, like this illusion that we have that we can prepare somehow. And especially through a loss like my sister's, where it was a very drawn out process, where in theory, what the end of the story is likely to be at a certain point. You have this illusion that you're preparing or doing some of the legwork, getting ready. And it's just a funny little trick that our minds play for us to let us believe that. But really the work of quote unquote preparing or getting ready for that kind of thing, which is such an inevitable part of the human experience, is just learning how to love other people and be loved and take care of yourself and protect what you need to protect.
Yeah, that's so well said. And do you feel like you maybe weren't sort of immersed in thinking on those terms, like before those losses, before your sister passed?
Well, I think one of the things that has really struck me, especially in the year or so since the book came out, is how profoundly I had to throw myself into the novice category of accepting help. Because one of the other primary illusions we have is that if you're a helpful person and you're, schooled in the art or science or practice of offering help to other people, that the mirror image of that will be receiving help, and you'll be good at that too. And that is so bogus. I mean, that just isn't at all true. And in fact, I think it's harder for people who are helpers sometimes to learn how to accept help. And
100%.
That's something that I really wasn't prepared for. And when I look back, the book was a really useful way of kind of reviewing the curriculum of my life in that regard. And I have 3 children. And so, the births of each of those children was a really revealing and memorable moment, kind of snapshot of, okay, where are you now with accepting help? Like, here's how you came into the parenting experience, with baby number one. And then a few years later, here's baby number two. And like, now how are you doing with it? And that I was able to kind of look back at those experiences and talk to other people who, one of the great parts of writing the book was talking to other people who've been on both the giving and receiving end of primarily edible help, because the book focuses on that.
Right.
And it was so informative to see, like you said, these are really individual experiences. I mean, even if you took as if you could classify it, but like a type of loss, like the loss of a parent or the loss of a sibling or something like that, it varies so much from person to person, because everyone, even, if you were to talk to me and my surviving sister about the loss of our sister or our mom, our experiences are so individual, even within a family. Even though we've lost the same person, the relationship we've lost is totally different. Right. And how we receive it and process it is totally different, because even though we grew up in theoretically the same family, there's the whole saying about no child has the same parents, grows up in the same family, because it's such a, quixotic little mixture of your personality and your sensitivities and your, the things that you've experienced personally. And so all those things are just so personal and unique.
Yeah. Good use of quixotic.
English major.
Oh, same. Likewise. Has it been difficult to, because, I think I love the reminder, and thank you for it, that we all have different emotional experiences, and it's important to recognize that. For you and your, surviving sister, has that been hard to sort of parse that out and find sort of space for each of you together and sort of, separately to find healing?
Oh, yeah, so much. We were really taking care of my sister when she was ill and when she was dying, and then sort of dealing with the aftermath of her death, which is a whole other experience. She and I were really, I wouldn't say in lockstep, but we were very united in the ways that we did that. It was a very demanding process.
Yeah.
And in this case involved a lot of traveling and, time away from our own families, and in a pretty intense kind of way. My sister was a pretty intense character too. So it was a very intense time. And then losing our mom has been some time has passed, and then, it's just a different kind of loss. So I'm more conscious of the ways that we each have our own way to process that.
Yeah.
Like there was more of a sort of, we are together processing this thing, which is kind of different for each of us, because she and my other sister were a year apart. They were what they call Irish twins, very close in age. And then there was a long gap until I came along 6 years later.
I see.
So their relationship had a totally different kind of intensity than my relationship with my sister did.
Yeah.
And then, the loss of a parent is just like a completely, also like a root level loss that's really reveals the differences in those relationships. I have a friend who's has a real button on the phrase, "I'm sorry for your loss." Mm-hmm. I think all of us develop, especially if you've had a number of experiences like that, you kind of develop a little, pocket phrase book of things that drive you absolutely bananas, or things that actually work.
I said that in this very conversation, Janet.
I love that phrase. No, you hit the sweet spot for me. I love that phrase because it allows for what form it takes for you. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry for your loss.
Right.
Not the people who come in, oh, you lost your mom, you must feel, whatever. Sure. Versus, I'm just sorry. I don't know. I wrote a piece once years ago about, it's almost like you come upon someone who's sort of peering over into a little well or an abyss, and you don't know what they're seeing. You don't know how deep it is. You don't know what's on the walls of that, space. Mm-hmm. But you can see that, you can recognize the sort of the posture of loss and just say, I'm so sorry. I don't know what you're looking at down there, but, I'm just, here's some support for the process, whatever form it takes for you. Some people, their grandmother dies and she was the the root of all goodness in their life. Maybe they had an unstable, parenting experience, but their grandmother was like a rock, and some people didn't feel that way. So they have a much to make some assumption or presumption about what someone's grieving or how they're grieving it or how it's landing for them. I feel like people are so tender in those periods of time that those things really can grate or pierce them somehow. But that phrase, I love it because it's just like, I don't know what it is, but I'm sorry for this effort that you're having to exert right now, or this thing that you're going through.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, for me personally, I haven't experienced, a lot of loss, and sort of the, quote unquote death sort of version of loss. I've experienced loss certainly, but I think it's such a tell me about how these loss experiences have sort of, got you thinking about, or experiencing the nuances of empathy. Cause I feel like there is a tremendous, in any sort of experiential, emotional experiences, there are so many pockets where we can find empathy, right? And really hone and craft that empathy. Tell me about that experience for you a little bit.
I don't know why. Maybe I'll figure it out as I'm talking, but the first thing that came to mind was, before my sister died, my oldest daughter's teacher, and she was in a Waldorf school. So your teacher was like was somebody you were in theory on an 8-year journey with, first grade through 8th grade. And he was just an incredibly compelling, wise, lovely, lovely man, and had become a friend through the grades that she had gone through with him. And then he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. And he wrote a book about his experience with cancer and coming to terms with the idea of it being terminal. And it was a really joyful, strangely joyful experience for him. He was so clear about what it had revealed for him. He wrote a book about it called Traveling Light. And then because it was a brain cancer, he was this unbelievably erudite, just compelling speaker and writer. And most cruelly, that was kind of what began to fall away, was his ability to write and then edit his own work. So I got involved with helping him bring the book to publication. And it was, I didn't grow up in an environment where you would kind of joyfully go through something like that. There was this sort of more Judaic sense of burden, which I'm beginning to recognize. The Jews don't have a monopoly on that. Other faiths to also orient people to look at things as burdensome, which are genuinely burdensome.
Right.
But this idea of finding the light and finding what's revealed to you. Nobody would opt to have a terminal brain cancer, and he found all these beautiful ways to connect to other people and to healers and to the world around him, and this appreciation for sort of the waning moments of his time here. And that was really, even if I hadn't been involved in writing the book with him, it would really have struck me. And that isn't to say that, he didn't leave a family behind who really struggled in the aftermath of his loss. And there weren't really sad and heavy things that came out of that. But it was really revelatory for me, oh, wow, there's a way to see the gifts that are handed to you with these other things. And that I've certainly tried to hold on to that. Sometimes it feels like the universe finds that amusing. But that was really, this is often what happens is I start talking and I forget what the question was. But that I think was about just the idea of empathy and grief and just seeing he was a pretty public figure, in our community, and little windows into that kind of loss, and then how that's translated just to the family that loses their person.
Right.
That was definitely educational.
Yeah, I bet. And what a beautiful experience. I love the idea of they're like, cause like when we talk, like a lot of times, like sort of the societal way we sort of pitch or talk about like positive reframe or thinking positively, right? It's sometimes it feels like an exclusion of the pain, right? And not, but I think the beauty in that experience you're describing is there's a recognition of both, right? There's beauty and there's loss and there's sadness and there's, darkness and we as humans contain both of those things simultaneously.
Yeah, it's a very and experience. I think where a lot of people struggle is the either or. Like, how am I supposed to be happy about this? It's horrible. Like, well, you're actually supposed to be both. You're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be, but I mean, we have the capacity to recognize both.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Right. When you when your sister was sort of struggling and before she passed, like, were you, and do you worry about, am I like, cause like, I'll just put this on me. Like I'm someone who I have anxiety and I have an anxious brain. So my mind can go sort of weird, dark, neurotic places. And so like part of me would be like, oh my gosh, like she had cancer. Am I going to have cancer? Do you worry about that stuff, or is that?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, there's been quite a bit of cancer in our family. And, I remember going to see one of my ongoing, struggles is I have a back injury that's really been pretty limiting, for the last 10 years or so. And I'm very aware now of the ways that emotion and your physical body, sometimes do not play nicely together, or certainly they are connected.
100%. Yeah.
And I went to see I have just been on this quest perpetually to find somebody who can bring me some relief. And I went to see this new chiropractor that my doctor had recommended I go see. And he looked at me, and this was probably, I don't know, within 3 months of losing my sister. And, you go through the family history, like you fill out the form with like who has what in their what, and, who's had what. And he picks up the form, he looked at it, and he goes, crap, that's a lot of cancer.
Oh my
not
God.
done. He goes, crap, that's a lot of cancer. You must be waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Oh,
I was like,
God.
You probably can just throw the form away, because I don't think I'm coming back here.
Right.
Like, whoa.
That's not what you want to hear.
No, and it certainly wasn't like, I also have an anxious brain, so it wasn't a foreign thought, it wasn't a novel thought, but it was sort of like, wait a second, like I'm supposed to be wrestling with that in the dark of night. Like you're not supposed to be pointing that out to me in like that.
Yeah, you're the professional here.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, and there's also in that kind of both and kind of way. I have a friend, Maria Serwa, who's a positive psychology guru. She's amazing. She teaches courses, and she's written some wonderful books. And she did this performative piece. Oh my gosh, it must be like almost 20 years ago now. But the title of it and the refrain through the whole thing was, "The bus is already coming." Like whatever is going to take you out, it's coming. And we won't know for the most part, what it is in advance. So you should live your life. You should, suck the marrow out of the thing, and, drink the juice, and, find your joy, because whatever it is, it's coming. You're not, like that woman who said to me, "I've never known anyone who died." Well, one of the people that's going to die is going to be you.
Yeah.
So you may as well live your life. And so I feel like that certainly has been made clear to me. It's not always easy to live into that in a lighthearted way, but it's definitely something that I've thought about. And my sister didn't really acknowledge or embrace, I don't know if embrace is the right word, but that she was dying wasn't something that was really acknowledged or spoken about until she was actively dying. So the first, the lion's share of that experience was spent with all of us sort of having our own interior experience or sidebar conversation about where it was going, but it didn't have any of William's like, let me, go on this light-filled path because I know something about, the trajectory of this. So that
Wow.
was,
Yeah.
but it did teach me. And when you ask about like what I've learned from it, I haven't stopped. It's not a static experience. Like it's done. It was 7 years ago, and I don't, I've learned all the things to learn from it. I keep taking those things out and looking at them again, as I go on in life and experience other things. And I look back and I go, oh, wow, that I understand that in a different way now. And I was aware at the time that she was teaching me a really powerful thing about self-determination, because almost nobody around her agreed with how she was handling it.
Wow.
And there was a lot of fighting. And at a certain point, I remember recognizing like I could keep fighting or I could be with her, but I can't really do both of those things. And that's something that I go back to again and again, those dark of night, long night of the soul kind of moments where you look back at those things again and understand how alone she must have felt, even though she was a very pugnacious person and didn't present with any kind of uncertainty. Was just a very alone quality to that. And so I think about that all the time.
Yeah. And how can you not?
Yeah. Did I do enough versus like that sort of karmic dharma idea of, well, it was her path.
Right.
To figure that out.
What did relinquishing that control and just kind of being there and not, sort of throwing your hands up in that fight, like what did that look like?
In some ways it's harder because fighting and having this goal, like I want to get her to do this particular thing, like that is what has to happen, is a very occupying thing.
Right.
And it allows you to be so occupied with it that you don't have to think or feel too much of the thinks or feels that are available in that moment. And letting go of that was more like, oh, this is hard. Like this is just a hard thing. And I don't have that, the hamster wheel of that, got to get this box checked, got to get her to do this thing. When I let go of that, it was more just, I have this really vivid memory of one moment where it just became so clear to me, like I had to stop fighting with her. Somebody had, I couldn't wait for everybody to, I was just going to stop fighting with her. And it was just almost one of the sweetest moments of the really, really hard time. Just lay down with her. And we were kind of aligned in that moment. Like it was a really quiet moment for her. And it was, I think, spiritually at some level, we didn't really talk about it, but like she could recognize like there was a little ease in that moment, to just be.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it is so hard. And, my youngest brother, no, not my youngest brother, my middle brother has schizophrenia. And, when that sort of started arising, it was understandably a sort of melange of not knowing what to do and trying to kind of, certainly try to help him in ways that like were not helpful, right? And sort of trying to sort of diagnose it and trying to kind of look back on childhood traumas and while that can be useful in some sense, like it's not useful for him, right? That's not what he needs. And it's been a long journey and letting go of that control, right? And it's so hard though, because like, you feel like what's best. You feel like they're your brother or they're your sister and you love them so deeply and you want the best for them, but ultimately that has to come from them.
Yeah. And, with all your explorations of empathy, that kind of agenda-driven thinking, like I have this thing. Oh, I know what you need to try for that. Whether it's anyone, a friend or a relative or someone who's struggling with something, that I know what you need to try for that. It kind of shuts down empathy. It shuts down the possibility of having like that little bit of breathing room. Like lately I keep coming back to that idea. I must have just read a news story about an avalanche or something. Like when you're in an avalanche, you dig out a little space around your mouth to breathe. Um, that really driven, I've got the solution that you need to try. It's the antithesis of that.
Yeah.
Either the person, it sets up this sort of binary, either they're agreeing with you or they're not. Either they're cooperating or they're being uncooperative. And it doesn't leave room, that little bit of breathing room, to be like, oh, like, what is this like for you? Like, how is this for you? And when you're talking about your brother's experience, I've been listening to this wonderful podcast called Last Day, which is all about the opioid crisis.
Oh, yes. And Stephanie
Whittles-Wax.
Yeah.
Amazing. And something like a terminal illness or a chronic mental health issue or an addiction, something like that. There's this real tendency, like, to believe, like you said, you want the best for them. So you want to wish this thing away. It should be gone. Like, the best for them would be if this thing wasn't even part of the picture. So how do we eradicate it from the picture? And that idea of the little bit of breathing space and the little tiny seed of true connection and compassion and empathy comes from accepting it.
Yep.
Whether it's something that could in fact be eradicated, it's part of them right now. And even dealing with my own, like, struggles with my back, like, the more I try to other it, I want this thing done, I want it solved, I want it to go away. It creates this division even within myself. Like, I don't really occupy my body in a holistic way because I'm at war with it. It's either there's something that my body's doing to me or something I need to do to it to make this thing stop. And it doesn't allow you to have this kind of unified experience of just living in your own skin. So I've just been noodling around with that idea quite a lot. Like, wishing it away is wishing a part of the person away, even when you're talking about something you're dealing with or struggling with yourself. Yeah. Embracing it. It doesn't necessarily mean accepting it forever. It just means accepting, like, this is now. This is what there is now.
Right.
So how do we, like, deal with that constructively and with forgiveness and.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's such a beautiful lesson, I think, for me and for all of us, is that, I mean, I think that is the ultimate aim, I think, in life is finding those moments of connection and meeting people where they are. Like, that's the thing. I think there's so much in life. You mentioned, Janet, like, here, do this thing, this will heal you, or do this thing, this will be the trick, and I think that, I don't think people are trying to, like, harm, it's just like the way, our society is sort of set up. But I think the more that we can find what you're describing and just accepting and being here now, just like allowing that person to be in the experience they are in, and not being so prescriptive about it, for ourselves, and just being there is truly the aim in life, for communities and for our own sort of health and sanity.
Yeah, and that it leaves that. Well, I told you. Have you taken the thing yet? No? Well, I guess you don't want to be better. Like, and you just don't know, like, what.
There's an arrogance to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then until you then walk a mile in some similar set of footwear, you may and you won't be able to recognize, like, oh, wow, there could be, other than obstinacy, there could be another reason why this person is not doing the thing. Yeah. That will obviously make them better if they would just do it. Some failure of whatever on their part. Like, and then when you go through it, it's like, oh.
You just got to choose.
Got to choose to be better. And my dad and my sister really struggled because he had gone through cancer himself before she was diagnosed. And she had always been a very, alternative healing, non-Western embracing kind of person. And he was not until he was diagnosed with cancer. And then was doing all kinds of complementary supportive, Reiki and vitamins and diet changes and really embracing both. He did the full chemo radiation situation, but he also did all this other stuff. And so he really believed that would be what would save her. And when he was going through chemo and radiation, she would call me every day and say, chemo's going to kill him. Like, we got to get him to stop doing that. It's poison. I remember him saying to her at one point, like, you got to stop calling it poison. Cause it's like my soldier I don't remember what the imagery he used, but he had, some really powerful imagery for himself about what this was. It was a very hard thing to go through. But he had imagery for himself, like to sustain himself with it. And when she refused to do those things or chose not to do those things, depending on how you look at it, it was a real struggle for him because he wanted her to do what he had done because it had saved him. He was still here. And she had the same like dogged, really closely held beliefs about what was going to make her better that he had. And it was really intense to watch them kind of each struggle with that, her for him when he was ill and then on the other side.
Yeah. Wow. It makes me think about what empathy is. And I think there's so much nuance in empathy that I think sometimes we forget about. So for instance, next week I'm doing a little workshop at a local college, design college. And I'm, the main lesson in it is empathy for ourselves. And so that's sort of one piece of it that we forget. And the other piece, I think, and I feel we need to create more space for is, just because I, Janet, haven't my sister hasn't died, for instance, and I can't make that one-to-one connection. It doesn't mean I can't have empathy for your situation, right?
Right.
Like, I have the capacity as a human person to tap into other experiences of loss, right? And knowing that I have a sister, right? And feeling about what that loss would mean to me, and then knowing that that would be a brutal experience, and I feel for that experience, and I feel for you, and I'm so sorry, and so I feel like there's such I sometimes when we talk about empathy, it's oh, we just have I haven't experienced that, so there's no that's the end game, right? Or that's the end point. There's no sort of growth from there, but I think there's so much more opportunity for empathy that we forget about.
Yeah, going back to that little pocket dictionary of what not to say and what to say, that phrase oh, I can't imagine what you're going through. And I've read or listened to so many people who've gone through pretty traumatic things, revisiting that idea and saying, it's not that you can't, actually.
You can.
You can. You just don't want to, which is perfectly valid, but it's not that you can't.
Yeah. And
I feel like I think you raised this really powerful idea. Is you can always connect it to something because you're a human and they're a human. It's not they're operating with completely different machinery and software than you are. But even if you can't, even if, God forbid, you're talking about something where somebody's gone through something so devastating that there really is no equivalent in your life, what you have is curiosity. You can build empathy, certainly, from finding shared, those filaments that you're talking about. Well, I haven't lost my sister, but I have a sister.
Yeah.
Or I have a close friend, who's valuable to me in a made family, chosen family kind of a way.
Yeah.
So you can build it that way, but you can also build it from a kind of a blank slate on your side, if that's what you perceive, just with curiosity. Tell me I'm not going to come in here and tell you what it must be like for you, or tell you, what's going to save you. I'm just going to come in and ask.
Yeah.
Or learn from you. Tell me what this is like. And then probably you will find those filaments that do connect it, even if you don't recognize that you have them
100%.
at the outset.
Yeah.
But I think curiosity is really, it's the most important tool in a way for empathy, is just, even if it's self-directed or directed at the situation or at the other person, what am I seeing here? Not, I know what this is. We have this human compulsion to categorize and label and sort things out, but come in curious. What is this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's so important, curiosity. And a piece of that for me has always been listening, right? Like truly listening, to people and like in this podcast, I've really had to like hone that. Like I think early on I was so sort of prescriptive about like, oh, this is the way things need to go, and I took so many notes, and then it took me out of like being present and really truly listening to the person I'm speaking to. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us, and the connections we make is just set aside any preconceived notions, just be there and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
It is hard.
It's so simple to describe.
It's
really hard to do.
It's hot. It's a challenge every day for sure. Yeah.
And I think for some people, it's pretty uncomfortable too when you meet someone who's a really compelling listener. Like it can be very uncomfortable. Like because what we're accustomed to filling the space with between two people is kind of not there.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, you're right. Like it actually, when you said that, it made me think of, I took a workshop with Jen Pasteloff, who's on this podcast, and she's deaf. And so when we're there in person, in this workshop, it was part like writing workshop and some yoga.
I've taken that workshop.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
She's the best. But she gets right up in your face.
Yep.
And she's staring at your lips, right? Trying to read your lips. And that's, that's like a whole nother level, but like, it's the same idea. You listen, you be there, and it's vulnerable.
It's very much so. And also it's like, it's a whole, like both sides experience of vulnerability, she really owns and describes so beautifully. Like her superpower is listening, and she's deaf.
Yeah.
And to stand with that and be open to it, it's a big human exercise. Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So Janet, tell me about the process of writing and sort of putting together your book, Extra Helping.
Well, it started as a blog, like most things lately. I think it was like 2011, I think is when it started. I have a friend, Susie Baum, who writes really beautifully about the experience of motherhood in particular, and is really concerned with making space for mothers to share their stories and breathe into all the aspects of motherhood, dark and light, and voice that for other people and leave room for other voices. And so she invited me to be part of a writing evening that she used to do every year. And I was really self-conscious about not having published anything in quite a while. I'd published a children's book a long time ago, but I hadn't done anything since then. And so I started a blog because it was 2011. So that's what you did. And I didn't know what to have, sort of have it be about. And a friend of mine said, well, we all just want to know what you're having for dinner or putting in the lunchbox. So just write about that. And it made such sense to me because I'm not a culinary professional by any stretch of the imagination, but I've always been, I grew up in a house where food was the primary love language. My sisters had a catering business that I took over, and I worked in a bakery, and I've had all kinds of food experiences, but I'm definitely more of a home cook than a professional. But it is the thing that comes up every day, multiple times, and it made sense that I would, more than anything else, I would have something to say about that, because it was just, I had young kids at the time, so it was particularly loud. They always need to be fed something. So that became the most natural thing to write about. And then through that prism, look at all the other things that were going on in life, my life and in the world. And then I had another friend, I have an incredible group of primarily female friends who I just do what they tell me to do. Not always, which to sometimes to their consternation, but and so this other friend, Laura McNeil, who's a wonderful writer, and her husband, Tom, was my writing teacher in college, and they are great friends. And they just said, it's time for a book. You need to put this together into a book. And another friend, Alana Trinello, who's a wonderful food writer, said, it needs to be about, you're good at showing up for people with food, and people don't know how to do that. So have it be about that. So, and then as that was all coming together, was the period of time when my sister was sick and dying. So it kind of all grew out of that. And one of the things you have to do when you're writing a book proposal is establish that your book basically already exists in the world and has been very successful. And you're just going to write another one like that. So you have to it's like a real estate thing. You have to provide comparables, like what other titles exist that you will basically be echoing. And what really struck me was I couldn't find one. There were lots of special diet for particular illness books. There were, lots of like how to bake presents for people, or themed books in that way. But they're really since about, after I completed the book, I found one from 1970, but really since the 20s, there hadn't been a book that was just about how to take care of people with food. And I think part of what happened to make that less of a sort of topic that was considered important to educate people around was kind of an erosion of empathy and the ways that privacy sort of grew up around those kinds of things. And also this proliferation of, well, this person's paleo and this person's this, and how could we possibly know what could help you because you may be doing some wackadoodle other thing. I think there was sort of a general presumption that we all kind of ate the same way before, as wrong-headed as that might have been. And now that there really isn't that, like everybody's doing something. And that is part of what shuts down people's ability to show up for each other with food is that I don't know what the thing that they do is or what his thing is. Like he's got a thing he's allergic to or whatever. So I'm not going to bring them something to eat because God only knows if it's going to be the right thing. And I think there are all kinds of things you can do now. Give people gift cards and for Postmates and, other delivery services and things like that, which are very valuable. And I don't mean to minimize them in any way, but there is something valuable in that curiosity. Like, what do you guys eat? What are you hungry for? Like, I feel like appetite is so informative about healing and emotional well-being and all that kind of like what someone's hungry for. And it's because, we come out seeking calories, we're born rooting for mother's milk. Mm-hmm. It's a very compelling driving force. And, it has such deep roots for people, the things that they crave when they're sick. If the foodiest foodie in the world, when they don't feel well or they're grieving or, some other like shaking event is happening in their life, they don't want smoked,
salmon
row of whatever.
Yeah.
That, they're going to have some very profound craving. And I feel like most of modern life kind of beats that out of us or beats our awareness of it out of us. And illness and grief and all those kinds of things are really revealing. Like they help you get back to the source.
Yeah.
So I have this I'm obviously really nerdy about all this stuff, but I have this really almost like a scale in my mind, like what balances this situation. Like if it's a hot, dry illness, what would be the antidote really to that? Or if this, if someone's going through something, if they're grieving and it's this sort of really heavy experience, like finding the right way to bring in just a little bit of light and space, but not too much, versus sometimes when you're celebrating, you want to kind of go all out. Like I love just thinking about those kinds of things.
I love that. And I think it's such a wonderful concept. And because, like death, food is something we all eat, right? Just as we all die. And I think, especially as someone from, I have a disordered eating past, food is something that nourishes, right? Mm-hmm. And I think about nourishment a lot and like what nourishes my body, what sort of really makes me feel connected to my body and connected to other people. And I think the thing about food is it can be such a communal connecting operation, and that's what I love about extra helping and things like that is it brings people together, plain and simple, right? And can heal, which I think is so important.
Thank you. I thought so too. And the idea was really not like, here are the 5 things you bring to this person who's going through this thing, because
Sure.
again, it's all just so individual.
Yeah.
I could have my idea of like the perfect basket to bring to someone who's, if you and your wife moved, like, oh, this is my meal that I bring to people when they've moved.
Mhm.
But if I don't take the time to breathe a little bit into like, oh, no one has this history with eating and food, and like, I need to make this feel safe and enjoyable for him. So let me just ask him what he's hungry for.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to get into the whole thing, if you don't know the person well. But the idea was just to give people like a place to start from. Like,
Yeah.
you might read the book and go, whoa, no, I would never bring that, but fine. So don't, but take from it, like, it's okay to experience the vulnerability of like, I don't know what to bring you. What do you want? And let the person experience that feeling of like, oh, this person's asking me. So I kind of have to notice, like, what am I hungry for? And then when you've transacted that somehow successfully, what you've created is way more valuable than, the calories or nutrients that are in whatever you've brought them, because you've built that little empathy bridge. You've created that little bit of space where that could grow from.
Right. And when you were sort of doing the work of writing the book, were you, sitting down with friends and making them food and stuff like that?
I'm kind of always doing that. Again,
Excellent.
just having kids,
Sure.
that's because I grew up that way. I had really good teachers around that. And so that just having a family was a good education in that. And then, when you're part of a circle of people who are all having children, there becomes this kind of round robin of, who's cooking for who and that kind of thing. And then for me, it's the default. It's the easiest thing to think of. That's sort of, I think I said something in the book about like when people are standing around like wringing their hands and not knowing what to do when somebody's going through something. It's the easiest place to start, because there's no like, I wonder if they need dinner. Like,
Right.
Of course they need dinner. They're humans.
Yeah.
And it's dinner time. So you don't have to wonder if somebody needs to be fed. Usually, that generally speaking, if you get through something, you've eaten something in order to do that. So it's just for me, it's like the easiest place to begin. And then I began to recognize that like other people don't feel that way. Like they don't know, they didn't grow up that way, or they don't have that orientation towards like just addressing things that way. So.
Yeah. So, you mentioned like the, I would argue, that you're correct in that sort of assumption that sort of the modernization of like, food and how we connect over food and what nourishes us, and sort of the pull of the diet industry and the sort of disordered eating that exists there and all that stuff. Like it's all very, in my perspective, and I would say that I have sometimes a cynical view of that stuff, but in my perspective, it's isolating. It's not connecting. It's made to make us feel, insecure or, feel bad about our bodies or whatever, and it sounds like extra helping is, if not like a straight up antidote to that, certainly, an alternative to that frame of thinking.
Well, I think it's Jen Pasloff, who you're just referring to, introduced that phrase of like, don't should all over yourself.
Yeah.
And eating in the diet culture is a very shouldy industry. It's very should emphasize you should want this and you shouldn't want that. And these are good foods and these are bad foods. And I was hoping to give people a little bit of a roadmap into like just as much as possible, setting that aside and just being guided by appetite and this idea of building empathy and community. Like if you can satisfy someone's appetite, you've really done something. Or if you can help them, give them the space where they can recognize their appetite outside of all the shouldy messages that they've grown up with, then you've really done something. I think that makes it sound, if you haven't read the book, like it's this very preachy. The idea was really to be the antithesis of that. That curiosity really is the primary ingredient
Yeah.
And being open to learning, like, oh, that didn't land well. They didn't like that. Let's try, because if you come in with this very strong guiding set of principles, this is what's good for this, and you will eat it and you will like it. You haven't learned. You've shut down the possibility of learning anything from it.
Right. And you're shutting down people because people, as we said before, like people don't want to hear that.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they do, they certainly don't want to hear it then. That's
Right.
not the time when they're going to be the most open to learning something. It's going to be later after you've laid some track of compassion and empathy and
lovely. It's so lovely. What is out of curiosity, what is like one of your favorite things to make?
I think my favorite thing is congee, which is sometimes called juk. It's a Chinese rice soup.
Oh, I've never heard of this.
Very hard to find someone who can't eat it because it basically, in its purest form, is just rice and water. And I think the version I have in the book uses not just white rice, like a mixture of grains, but it's also, it has to be the easiest thing to make because you're basically just messing up rice. Like, all those people you meet people sometimes like, I can't make good rice.
Yeah.
You do all the things that mess up rice. You use too much water, you cook it for too long, and you stir it too much. And then you've successfully you may have made bad rice, but you've successfully made congee. It's like a porridge almost.
Oh.
And then you can add all kinds of things to it to make it very delicious. And it's a great thing to bring to a household that may have like one person in who's not feeling well, but a bunch of other hungry people that just need dinner. Because you can do it in kind of a component-y way. Like, you make a big pot of congee and then you add in little containers like stuff you can put on top of it. It's incredibly simple. It's incredibly inexpensive, and it can sort of be modular. It can work for people of all kinds of appetites and levels of hunger and so forth. And
Sounds
it came
delicious.
into my family's life because our very close family friends, the mom is a Chinese American cook, and she's like a superhero. As soon as something bad happened, she was at the door with a pot of congee. Like, it is her calling card to show up
that's
with
amazing.
us. And so I was thinking and writing a little bit this morning about one of the criticisms I read online of the book was like these weird ingredients or these weird ideas. And I think to some people, like, the idea of congee is comfort food and it's what they've grown up with. And for some people, it's like an exotic thing. Like, why is she introducing this exotic idea? It's rice and water. It's just presented in this different way. And I feel like that, speaking of like sort of in a more global sense, like empathy and the crisis of empathy in the world right now, one of the simplest meditations for me is, who else is eating this? Or where did it come from? Or how did it come to be in my life? Or if you have curiosity or you want to build empathy cross-culturally or globally or whatever, eating what other people eat is a really powerful way to do that. You're occupying their headspace in a kind of way that you can't otherwise. And then you're ingesting it. It becomes part of you. It's this very metaphoric way of building understanding. If you eat what they eat, then they're not they anymore. They're not othered. It's this very integral way to address it. So I think a lot about that.
I love that. That's such a beautiful exploration of curiosity and empathy. I love that. Have you, before we sort of transition into Empathy Heroes, it just made me think, it just came to my mind. Have you seen the movie Big Night?
Yes, a long time ago, right?
Yeah, it came out, I think probably late 90s, something like that. Stanley Tucci
and Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub, play brothers from Italy, and they have this,
Oh wow, I hadn't thought about that in ages. Yeah,
and it just made me think. It made me think of it as you're talking about this book, Extra Helping, and the connecting force of food, and sort of that it's such a powerful thing, and it's so beautifully realized in that movie, Big Night. They're a struggling Italian restaurant. And they have sort of like one last hurrah, and it's just lovely. And I if listeners, you're listening and you have never heard of this movie, go look it up. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere or rented somewhere. It's called Big Night. It's Beautiful.
Yeah, it was a beautiful movie. I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah. Let's transition into Empathy Heroes. This is the part of the show where my guests and I, listeners, each mention an empathy hero or two from our lives. Could be someone we know personally, could be an author we love, or a quote we love from an author, could be a character from a book or a movie even. I will go first, Janet, to give you a moment to think on your empathy hero. My empathy hero this week is my new friend, Rochelle Chuang, who is a teacher at a couple local schools to me here, local universities to me here in Southern California. And we connected maybe about a month ago, and she invited me to speak and do some two empathy workshops at two universities, one just coming up next week and one in March. And I feel so lucky. Like, I feel like, this thing I'm building with the Feed the Human Collective, the idea is that there'll be online workshops and then eventually sort of in-person workshops and retreats and stuff, all based around developing empathy and vulnerability and emotional wayfinding. And this is such a tremendous opportunity for me to, sort of continue to hone my sort of craft of like speaking in public and talking about these ideas in ways that are accessible. And so I just feel so grateful and lucky to know Rochelle, and just so happy that, she invited me to speak. And I just feel it like just kind of aligns with what I've been doing and what I want to do in the world. And so Rochelle Chuang is my empathy hero this week for that.
That's great. Congratulations. Yeah. That's a really great opportunity.
Thank you so much.
Oh, I was listening to something last night, and my brain is so old, I can't remember what it was, but they were talking about like positive, it was some positive self-talk kind of thing around, I have to go to the bank, and then I have to teach this thing, and then I get to do this. I get to go to the parent-teacher conference. Like that simple little switch, like
love
really
that.
Powerful. Yeah.
Super powerful.
Well, my perennial, always, forever empathy hero is Mr. Rogers.
Oh, yeah. He's
just
the best.
Deeply passionate about Mr. Rogers. And I just listened to, I was actually thinking of you. So I was listening to it. There's this great new podcast called Finding Fred. And Carvel Wallace does a really interesting deep dive into the meaning of Mr. Rogers in all kinds of ways that you might not have already thought about. And there was this quote that I, had to like rewind and play just to get it written down. But we talk about genius in so many capacities when it comes to other things, the things we think of as hard. But empathy is really hard. And talking to people about empathy and getting people to understand empathy is so hard. And this man was a genius at it, not because of innate talent, but because he valued it and committed to it, and he worked really hard at it.
Wow.
And I really appreciate how many people now are emphasizing, like, not superheroing him, but really emphasizing how human he was. And not that we need him to come back, but, his kind of final message was, I taught you so you could do it. It's not that you need me to do it for you. It's in you. You all need to do it yourselves. The capacity is in all of us. So, I never stop learning from his example.
Oh man, Mr. Rogers is all time best. Yeah. I mean, he's beautiful. He's a beautiful human.
There's a StoryCorps recording of him talking to, oh my God, my brain, Francois Clemens about this scene. I mean, just like the depth and the intensity of what he was doing in such a simple way, like that scene where he washes his feet.
Yeah,
has all these like biblical overtones, and that when you think of the context, like the time in which he did it, like amazing. And I learn endlessly from him.
Yeah. Did you see the documentary?
Oh, you know that I did that.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
The minute that it came out, and the Tom Hanks movie, and all the podcasts.
I
all
need
those
to.
things.
I heard of Finding Fred, and I need to listen to that. I didn't watch the Tom Hanks movie. I was worried, and maybe you can tell me because you've seen it. I was worried that it was gonna, because I heard it wasn't great, and I loved the documentary so much, and I was crying within like 2 minutes of watching the
I cried
documentary.
at the preview. My daughter was sitting next to me. We were in a movie theater, and they showed the preview for it, and I was sobbing. And she looked at me like, "Seriously?"
Oh, I would have been right with you because I cried in the
yeah.
trailer as well.
Oh my
But
God.
tell me about the Tom Hanks one. Was that good or?
It's a good movie. It's not like if you're looking for your next like real fix
Yeah.
of Mr. Rogers, I would say Finding Fred is the way to go.
Okay.
I definitely appreciated the movie, and there's a lot to be gained from it. But it's the documentary. If I had to choose, I mean, I love Tom Hanks, and I think he did a wonderful job. But the documentary and then this podcast are really the way to go.
All right. That's good tips. Well, Janet, where can the You Me Empathy Feely Humans connect with you, buy your book, all of that stuff?
Well, the book is one of those where books are sold situations. It was published by Roost, so anywhere I obviously would be doing a resounding cheer for your local bookseller.
Mm-hmm.
But it's available anywhere that books are available. And then I write for my general purposes at my blog, which is araisinandaporpoise.com.
So what does a raisin and a porpoise mean? Tell me.
It's a Lewis Carroll quote about,
okay.
that has to do with like when you set out on a journey, you set out with a raisin and a porpoise, a reason and a purpose.
Got it.
And I felt so sort of goobery about starting a blog that I couldn't give it some serious name at the time, and then
I get it.
The ship sailed. So
I love it.
I stuck with
I love it. Okay, so you have raisinandporpoise.com. The book Extra Helping Everyone is available everywhere, but definitely support your local bookstore. And well, thank you, Janet, so much for being a guest on You Me Empathy and sharing your wisdom. You're so very eloquent about just life experiences and all of this empathy stuff, and so I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you too. Knowing this was a really great experience, and I'm glad we stuck with the scheduling.
Me too.
This was a great conversation. So thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing to hone these skills for people, because I really do think it's the path back towards the light for the world.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. Well, listeners, as I always say, I'm here, you're here, we're here together on this wayward, overwhelming, awe-inspiring pale blue dot. We have each other. It's You Me Empathy.
La, la, la.